See if this is working. Oh shoot, it wants to do a portrait. Okay, all right. Well, we'll just do that then. Not exactly what I was wanting to do. But anyway, seems like it's working. We'll just get it started. Pardon the impromptu foolishness. Not even sure what I want to do. Just get on here and do some stuff. All the advice I get about YouTube channels is they say just start with whatever you got, whether that's your phone, whatever. So that's what I got. I got my phone and whatever, and the orientation thing is weird. Soon, I don't even know that I plan on playing a whole lot. Hopefully you can hear that. Again, I don't even know that I plan on playing a whole lot. The main thing I wanted to do is just catch the chat over here. Sam's here. What's up, Sam? Paul's in here. Yo, yes. Yeah, the beard is gone. Yeah, nice to see you too, Paul. I'm doing all right. Just trying to catch up here. You know what I'm going to do? Since I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm going to see if I can share this link around. Since I'm bad at stuff, this is like the worst of all YouTube stuff. Oops. Sharing that on Facebook, so maybe I can get people to hang out there. And then, oops, I don't know how to do stuff. Okay. Do this. I can go over there. This can go over here. I'm not sure how professional YouTubers do this stuff. But like I was saying, the advice is you just start with whatever you got. And this is what I got. I got an old MacBook Pro, and oh, that's weird. Everything's not chronological here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Cool. Well, maybe people will find me. Maybe we shall see. All right. So that is all that. Get rid of this. Hey. Figure out how to get all this stuff to work. Oh, what is going on here? This is not excellent. I thought I was signed into all this stuff. Apparently I wasn't signed into all this stuff. check my notifications. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just go here and go here since I'm not really doing that. I will work on this live stream thing. Apparently there's 10 people watching, which is fantastic. All right. I think I have the appropriate thing up. Let me get rid of that. Yes, I actually want to quit you. Quit you. All right. Stop fooling around with this thing for a while. All right. Cool. So, not exactly what I wanted to do for my first live stream in a while. I just kind of wanted to get on here and chat with everybody about what's happening. I haven't been on here in a while. I've just been trying to get my collective stuff together. So 2025. I actually meant to probably start all this about a year ago, and hit some stumbling blocks, just life stuff. Just things get in the way. So you capitulate, you give yourself some grace, and you give yourself some time to do the things that you need to do. So now I'm doing it. So the year started a little busy. I don't know if you guys know this, but I play for a corporate band. And the name of that band is Jesse's Girls. And we play all over the country. And also outside the country, we do destination stuff in like Mexico and Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Qatar, lots of places. We'll travel internationally. And it's just high-end event stuff. And it's been great, and I've been playing with them for about 8 years now, and it's been really wonderful. I was at a place 8 or so years ago where I was going to stop playing altogether, which I'm sure some of you guys watching this probably know, because I did kind of stop playing. I stopped doing jams in town. I've only done maybe a handful of gigs with either my solo band or with the dreaded Marco, but largely haven't done a whole lot. Did a couple of short runs with Dixie Duncan, handful of gigs with Katie Martin, and that's been several years ago now. But Jesse's Girls has been the consistent thing that I've been doing. We've been performing pretty much the whole time for private events and corporate events and stuff. And again, it really been a blessing. They're very much like family to me. Wonderful group of musicians and people, and really just, we have a great time traveling and doing the kind of events that we do. And we've actually been working together outside of that band in individual passion projects that we all have. I've hired members of the band to play for me. If you've seen me play in Atlanta, you've probably seen my friend Batman on bass or Danavin on keys, and more of that will happen. I've also backed up my good friend Natalie Rojas on a few gigs. I've contributed some tracks to my friends in the group Black when they were doing some gigging a couple of years ago. So you probably heard me playing some nylon string guitar if you went and saw them as well. So in any case, that's been the thing, and it's been a long process of getting back to working on my own music and my own guitar playing and all of that stuff. It's been a lot. And I think I'm finally back to a place where I can start attacking this. So it kind of heaped a lot on my plate to start this year. I feel like this has taken longer than I wanted it to. Certainly taken more years than I wanted it to. But you just have to be patient with yourself for things and let things come as they do, and not necessarily push yourself over the edge before you're ready to do that stuff. So, what does that mean exactly? Well, in the first place, I'm wanting to reinvigorate this YouTube channel. I'm wanting to get more active on here. About 9 years ago, this channel was starting in its monetization phase. I had started doing a lot of review videos and demonstration videos for orange amplifiers, Jetter gear pedals, Fuchs amplification, stuff like that. And that got me a lot of traction on the channel, which was really great. And then that became a part of all the other stuff that I stopped doing. And if you've watched videos from a few years ago, you probably heard me talk about this stuff. But since then, I didn't really want to be a pitch guy. Didn't really want to be a product demonstration guy. All the guys that I follow, and gals on YouTube that do this stuff, really great at it. They have impressive musical vocabulary, skills, discernment about the gear that they're demonstrating, as well as high production value for everything that they're doing, not just having the ability to demonstrate how great something is, but really good photography, lighting, audio, all of that stuff. And that's something I'm just way behind the curve on for that. So I don't really feel like I have a lot to add to the gear review and demonstration thing. I'm certainly happy to do some stuff if people are interested in that. The one thing I do have in mind to do, or the couple things I have in mind to do, the album Drive, that is way long in the tooth at this point for a release and a completion. Might be fun to do something along the way with that, because I want to be clever with the idea of drive in terms of, what does drive mean? It means ambition. It also means, in the computer world, something that stores your memories and data. And then also the physical means of transportation to drive, and the emotional component of, being an introvert that wanted to escape a lot of things in life and would just find myself driving everywhere and listening to music, not listening to music, philosophizing, ruminating, doing all the things about life to make myself feel like I could put myself back together and get back to real world stuff. So that whole confluence of stuff. So I thought it might be fun as a pedal collector and gear guy to maybe go through some things at some point and just feature different drive pedals that I have. That might be kind of fun to do. I don't know that necessarily be a gear review kind of thing, but just a fun way to promote music and guitar playing and the stuff that I do. So maybe look forward to some of that stuff. In the meantime, since I'm trying to figure out what to do with that record, as I said, step one is getting back to this YouTube channel. I want to do several things with this channel. I'm going to really commit to doing a weekly live chat like this. Tuesday seems to be a good day to do it. Not as busy every weekend as I would like to be this year, but weekends are difficult because I'm usually traveling with Jesse's Girls. I'll also be doing some traveling with my band Falcon Car Wash, with my good friend Josh Sattler on bass. We've got some shows coming up this year. It'll be fun. I'll tell you more stuff about that. I've been really bad about posting my schedule of performances because I've really been keeping those cards close to the chest. Not for anything in particular, just trying to be sort of anti-promotion when it comes to the internet. I don't really know what to do with the internet. When I started doing stuff in the late 2000s, both with MySpace and with Facebook, and then getting into Instagram and YouTube, I didn't really know what to do with all these things. It seemed like a grand opportunity for promotion for the independent artist, for networking and things like that. But personally, as someone that has obsessive compulsive disorder, it's not good for me. It's not a healthy thing, and if you follow me on social media, you probably noticed I don't post a whole lot of stuff. I'm really bad about doing that, but I will spend a lot of time doom scrolling and looking at just everything. All the guitar players that I follow, bands that I follow, musicians that I follow, philosophers that I follow, news stuff. It's a lot. And that's been a hindrance to me as I'm wanting to get back to work into writing and recording my music. I'll find myself get to a stopping place where whatever, just the natural inclination for needing a break, or self-deprecation, analysis, critique, criticism, take it from the healthy spectrum to the unhealthy spectrum. Just needing to step away from whatever it is that I'm working on and checking messages or checking to see if I have messages. And 99 times out of 100, I don't have any messages waiting for me. I have a very small group of friends that we share funny memes online about stuff, but really, because I've been so antisocial, I've done a pretty good job of isolating myself and not exactly being on the first call register, which is fine. That was kind of by design. It's overwhelming, that's something I'm trying to do better with too. When people do reach out, a lot of times if the phone rings, I'll let it go to voicemail to see what it's about before I actually pick up. So that's a deficit that I have. It's sort of my isolationist thing that I've been dealing with. I'm not seeing the chat. Let me see if I can refresh this and actually get the chat to pop up. So I do want to see the chat so that we can talk. Yes, open the panel. Why are you doing this? Okay, so it's not showing me the live chat. So if you're messaging, hang in there. I will figure this out. I'm just not good at stuff. I'm really bad at stuff. Which is frustrating. Very frustrating. My apologies, everybody. So you watch me, I feel like I apologize every time I awkwardly do stuff because I don't know what stuff I'm doing. So as I'm looking at this stuff and trying to multitask and just being really bad at this, let me get away from there. Hopefully I'll see the chat here in a minute, or maybe I have to open this in another window. Maybe I'll try that. It just wasn't working in a way where I could be logged in. Yes, sign in, please. So yes, I'm wanting to let me see if this works. Okay, here yes, it's me. Sorry about that. I'm just bad at stuff. Please forgive me while I awkwardly do all of these things. No. I actually want to go to the website. Apologies, everyone. These are things, as I get better at this, I will hopefully spare you all of this stuff. Yes, technology is fun. Okay, I'm seeing the chat, but it is also telling me I am not signed in, which is frustrating because I should be signed in. Okay, now I'm signed in. Hooray. Again, apologies, everybody. Too many gizmos and things. So I need to be better about posting my schedule and doing all that stuff. And also, I need to find a better way to deal with social media. I can't get off it entirely, and I really want to. I've gone through phases where I take social media off of my mobile device, so I'll not have it on my phone or not have it on my iPad, so that I'm not tempted to look at that stuff, and then I'm forced to go to my computer to check messages and things. And that does restrict me a good bit. But there's also an expectation, since everybody's on these things with their devices, that we kind of need to be. So I'm trying to figure out a way to be managed with that stuff, because really the bulk of my day, I need to spend probably 80 to 90% of my day in front of my recording computer and finishing music. And I'll get to updates on that in just a moment. Um, so I'm hopeful working on that stuff. Um, I kind of want to um, shut off my social media if there's a way to do that. Like deactivate. I guess that's the thing. You can deactivate accounts. I'm thinking about doing that. Um, but I also know in this day and age that it kind of turns you into persona non grata or persona non exista because everybody's online looking at stuff. But my new website, which is not totally new, but still kind of new to me because I'm still figuring out how to work on all the functions that come with it, it does have a bit of a social aspect to it. So I can stream stuff from there, I can do live video from there. For now I'm going to focus on the YouTube channel, but eventually it will allow me to do live performances directly on my website, and that's something I'm trying to figure out how to do. And I appreciate you guys giving me grace as I'm learning how to do stuff, and not just learning how to do stuff, but learning how to do stuff in a way that I can actually manage. That seems to be a trick for me. I watch so many videos and have watched so many videos from people who I think do great YouTube stuff. They have a great online presence. I really have an affection for the way that they're handling their stuff. They're personable, they're creative, without coming off false or just all highlight reel. They seem like they're genuine in their humanity and their art as well. But they also are doing things in a way that works for them. And I'm just naturally kind of an awkward person. I do much better just to show up on the stage with a guitar and play real loud, and like I can do that. Talking to a camera is hard. Figuring out how to post stuff on social media for a decent, healthy, realistic engagement is hard because all of it feels so wrong to me. I have a TikTok. I posted on it a few times when I first got it. That was during COVID and when we were all stuck at home trying to figure it out. I haven't done much with it since then because since then I've surfed around TikTok a lot. And while I do think there are some real advantages to that platform and the opportunity for discovery of new music, new artists, so on and so forth, I also see a lot of what I think is just very unhealthy stuff. It's unhealthy for me. Some of just the doom scrolling about current events and opinion politics and all of that is really heartbreaking for me. So I kind of look at it to see what's going on, just get a read on what's out there and how everybody's doing, and what they think about stuff, and then don't chime in and participate because I don't feel like my voice really adds anything to those discussions. I may deal with that in another way because I am philosophical and certainly very opinionated. I just don't like the way it's rolled out on TikTok and on Instagram. It seems like there's the things that get you attention are not things that I would be comfortable with, and I don't believe are healthy. So I don't want to participate in those things. So as I can find a way that makes a platform like TikTok or Instagram something that aligns a bit more with my philosophy, how to engage with people, and what I think is honest and healthy, I'll do that. And I don't necessarily mean healthy for everyone else that's on it, healthy for me. When I see stuff, I don't feel healthy looking at it. In a lot of ways, and it's not just the politics stuff, it's the pop psychology stuff, the self-help stuff, the other medicinal health stuff, and even some musical stuff, just the way that people are doing stuff to carve out their own niche on the internet. I just don't think that would be healthy for me.
that it's not to cast anything on anybody who's using the platform in any way, shape, or form. Don't I don't know that I have a good enough opinion on that to say whether other people should be doing that or not doing that stuff. I just know for me, I feel bad when I look at that stuff. So I try to limit my engagement with it. So I'm going to find sort of a healthy way to start engaging with a bit of that stuff. And along the way, I feel like if I kind of stop the doom scrolling on social media, that when I want to do stuff online, that I will spend a bit more time on my actual website, which I think is the thing. And I'll put my website in the chat for anybody who wants to check that out. So about it stuff. And if I had a moderator, I guess this is the kind of thing that they could have ready to put into the chat. So that's the link for my website, and that's all things. You can find links to all of my social media over there. You can find a lot of music that I've posted to stream directly there. If you are curious if you've heard everything that I've released at this point, or everything that I've played on. Some stuff is behind a subscription wall, but not much of that. Just trying to engage people to get them to stay on there. You can sign up for, I think I have a thing for an email list. I need to be better about that. Just bad at stuff. I need a person for those kinds of things. And Adam Fox, if you're watching this, you're the guy I need to talk to about all of this stuff. So that's kind of the social media thing. I'm going to try to do this weekly live chat thing for a couple of reasons. One, and all of these things are really for me. I need accountability. I didn't have this problem for years. Working for myself, I've always been able to just sit down and knuckle through stuff. But since I've been dealing with so much of my anxiety stuff and depression stuff and self-confidence stuff, I've kind of lost a bit of that. And some of it's just been because I'll sit here and ruminate about whether people want to hear this or whether I need to be doing this or should I be doing something else, like working in a warehouse or trying to find some other career, maybe going back to college and studying something different. Like, there's been a million thoughts that have literally passed through my head in the last 8 or 9 years. I'm doing my best to wrestle with all of that stuff. So that's a lot of that. So one, yes, the accountability thing for me. Two is just kind of journaling. I do find that when I watch other people on YouTube, people who are using the platform as a way to kind of keep up with where they are, not just from an accountability standpoint, but just a sort of a progress report for themselves of like, here's another way to show up for the people who are involved. And anybody watching this, you're involved. Like, I need you. I need your input. Really, you guys are like the shareholder for my career, because you're probably the people that are streaming my stuff on Spotify and on Apple Music and anywhere else, and following me on YouTube and social media. So, I mean, you guys really are my support system for all of this stuff. So you guys are kind of like my shareholders. So showing that kind of weekly progress report is good. But then also to muse spontaneously like I'm doing now, just talk about whatever it is that I'm dealing with. And hopefully I'll come up with a better plan for this, to where maybe once a week I can narrow it down to topic. But this one, I even put it up as like what's new for 2025. So this is a lot of intention. I'm just wanting to push intention out into the world, into the universe, into the ether for all things. And I need to hear myself say that. I need to hear and see myself do that. And if you're struggling with your personal motivation and your art or in your life and things that you've got going on, maybe this is sort of a thing for you as well, that this will help get you to consider stepping up and maybe pushing your boundaries a little bit and getting back out there and being vulnerable and ready to take risks again. And for me, like, it's willing to take on the yoke of, like, I'm willing to fail at some stuff again. Like, At this point, I've got a pretty good track record with failure. I have survived every single professional and personal failure that I have subjected myself to and that I have caused. And I've learned a lot. And along the way, I've had some really wonderful things that I would consider successes too. So that's enough to encourage me to keep failing, even though the last several years I've really had a difficulty with that, because I felt like I was not supposed to be failing anymore. And that set me up for probably the biggest failure of all, which is to stop trying. So yeah, this weekly live chat is really a bit of that. Even if it's just me talking to the camera, to talk to me, to remind myself that I'm worthy to get up and do the things that I'm interested in and that I feel passionate about and that I love doing and that bring me joy, and that hopefully can add some joy and some beauty to the world at large. Even if it's just a one other person besides me, then it was worth doing the stuff. It doesn't have to be whatever my adolescent, immature idea of what success was going to be as a musician. It's okay to let that go. You know, what's the lyric? I'm done fighting off change. No wonder my arms are still swinging. I believe that's the lyric. This is a change that has been coming, and it just takes time, and I don't want to fight it anymore. All of it started with the process of working on the Drive record. I knew that some major change was coming, and I just couldn't quite make it around the curve with my sanity intact and my mental health intact. And it's been a long process of getting here, and like I don't really feel like I have any more of that stuff together, but I also feel like after this many years that, you know, life is what happens while you're making plans, and sitting around making plans to get it better didn't really do anything. It just stopped me from doing a lot of stuff. So I'm just gonna do the stuff, and maybe better comes along the way, and maybe it doesn't, but I'm still here, so that's kind of the thing. Eads, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Australia in the house, man. Happy anniversary. I believe I saw it was your anniversary here recently. So congrats to you guys. I haven't seen you guys since 20 years ago, since we all hung out in Sydney, Australia when I was on tour with Fozzy. And you guys gave us a wonderful walking tour of Sydney. Just amazing. One of my life memories that I'll cherish forever. What a wonderful tour that was. I'm still hoping I can come back soon, and that's also part of what I'm doing here, putting things out into the universe to manifest the things that I want, and getting back to making music and taking risks and failing. I want to be able to get back out on the road and touring and playing my own music, and also playing with other bands. So there's a few things happening along all of those lines. So let me go down the short list of everything that I have on the docket right now as a musical project. And if you want to know more about it, please send me a message or put a comment in here, and I'll try to address all of that stuff at the end of the video and beyond. As I mentioned, Jesse's Girls, corporate band. We do weddings, we do private events, all over the place. It's a really fun band. We are booked by Dennis Smith Entertainment, and I believe the website is DennisSmithEntertainment.com, but you can also find us on Instagram at Jesse's Girls IG. Instagram.com/Jesse's Girls, plural, IG. You can find us there. We're very active on Instagram, so you'll get to see lots of clips of gigs that we've done, performances we've done, events we've done, fun from, you know, just the road when we're out and about doing stuff. Really is wonderful. It's been a blessing in my life, and I hope to be able to share that with more people. It's tough when it's a bit of a corporate, private feature event band. I wish I could invite everybody to see the band at a public performance, and that's actually something that I'm working on. I'm hoping that we can create opportunities, at least here in Atlanta. for you guys to get to see a little bit about what we do in that regard. So that's A. In B, I also play with Falcon Car Wash, which is my good friends Brad, Justin, and Josh. They're a band out of Indiana. I've known these guys for years. I've been doing gigs with them for the last several years. It's a lot of fun. Mainly, it's kind of a jam band, cover band thing. But we have a good time and we do our own spin on a lot of stuff and do some fun mashups of tunes. So I hope to get to have more people see that. We've got a show coming up, and again, I will post all of these things. We do have a show coming up in Tennessee next month in April 2025 coming up. So that should be a venue event. So I should be able to invite you guys to come see that. I would love anybody in the area to come support that band because it really is a lot of fun and we're going to have a good time. And then we're also playing a festival this summer called Reggae Fest, and that's also in Tennessee. And I know I have the dates on my calendar, but as that comes up, I will post all of that stuff because that is also a public event. It's at a really beautiful country campsite up in Tennessee. We have a great time. There's live music all weekend long. There's artisans and cooks and craft makers and all kinds of stuff. It's a really fun atmosphere of just people hanging out, doing stuff. And it's Reggae Fest. We don't play reggae necessarily. We kind of play at a couple of things, but there are some reggae bands that play, like, oh God, I'm forgetting band names at the moment. Pleasant Hill Vibes? Pleasant Vibes? I'm forgetting it. And that's my bad. They'll admonish me later for that. They're good friends of ours. They're sort of a modern reggae band that are just fantastic, and they'll be there. And I think they're also going to be on the show that we're doing in Tennessee next month. So again, I will post all of that stuff and appropriately credit everybody that's going to be involved, friends and otherwise. So that's going on. And then I have recently joined a band. I'm not big on doing the tribute band thing. I haven't done a tribute band since 2010, where I did the Malcolm Young thing in an AC/DC tribute band, which was a lot of fun. But some good friends of mine reached out. I've been reaching out for about a year for a project that they had gotten started before COVID, and then it kind of went sideways during COVID, like a lot of projects did. They found themselves without a full-time guitar player, so they asked me if I would be interested in doing it, and I love Black Sabbath, so I have agreed, and we've gotten together a few times now. We're pulling the set together. It's music that I love. It's all tunes that I learned when I was a Teenage Mutant Ninja guitar player. I'm a massive Tony Iommi fan, so it's a real pleasure going back through all of this stuff, especially with the perspective of everything else that's happened since my youth, where now there's been lots of opportunities to see Ozzy playing these Sabbath tunes with different guitar players, whether it was Brad Gillis or with Zakk Wylde. Obviously there's Zach Sabbath doing his Black Sabbath tribute thing, so a lot of interesting takes out there, and I've covered Sabbath tunes in different bands that I've been in and tried different shots, so it's fun to really kind of dial in the essence of what the Sabbath thing is. So I'm in the process of doing that now. We've got another rehearsal coming up next week, and we're actively looking for dates to start playing around the Atlanta area, and we're called Slack Sabbath. So we're all a bunch of Generation X guys, so I like that moniker, Slack Sabbath. But we're trying to serve it up, so be on the lookout for that around Atlanta. And also, I do believe we'll be able to do some traveling with this project. So hopefully we can get this up and rolling and get it out on the road, because I would love to play this music for many, many people. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, let me know as well. Monkey just jumped in on the chat. No beard. Mike, looking forward to hearing and seeing you play new stuff soon. Full support, my friend. Thank you. Lee is a good friend of mine, one of my oldest friends from when I first moved to Atlanta. We jammed for a time trying to get a project off the ground that sadly never really made it out of the rehearsal stage, but we did play together an awful lot and had a lot of fun playing that stuff. So Lee has been a true friend for many, many years. So love you, brother. Thank you always for your support and keeping up. Okay, so that's a Slack Sabbath thing. I'll definitely get you up to date, and you can find. I'm not sure what the rest of our social media presence is because that's how new I am to that band. But I know you can find us on Facebook if you just search for Slack Sabbath. If I had the link, I would post that there now. If anybody's on Facebook as well, if you don't mind grabbing that, maybe I can see if there's a way that I can do that with the magic of computers and stuff. Let me see what I can do. Let me see. If I do this, copy that link, then come over here, and then post that link. There, through the magic of technology, you should be able to see the link for a Slack Sabbath. So that is happening. Really excited about putting a set together. We've already learned a bunch of tunes, or they knew a bunch of tunes. I'm still relearning a lot of them, and just rediscovering the joy of Tony Iommi's riffs. They're so good, and Bill Ward's Pocket. Like, what a funky metal band. Like, in a lot of ways, I'm very aware of what a big influence Black Sabbath's music has had on me. But in other way, I'm also noticing I'm slouching like crazy, and this perspective is not the most flattering. So thanks for putting up with me, Internet. Yay. I'll try not to slouch so much. How about I try to sit up a little bit better. But yeah, realizing again what a massive influence Black Sabbath's writing, especially Tony Iommi's approach to riffs, and Geezer Butler as a bass player, like being interested in riffy hard rock and metal, but also in a way that leaves a lot of room for the bass player to be really melodic and thematic. Really enjoy that about Black Sabbath's music. I feel like that might be something in my own heavy writing. I probably miss some opportunities. Modern music seems to treat a lot of heavy music as the bass just being another low-tuned guitar, doubling everything and not really having its own sort of polyphony in the arrangement of a lot of music. So that's kind of exciting to be reinformed and reabsorbing that kind of musical texture that I love so much, and especially as I'm writing and looking for ways that I can incorporate a bit more of that into my future stuff, rather than just sort of thinking about the bass as a low-tuned guitar just for the sonic low end of a recording, but actually the energy that the bass really brings to a modern band. So looking forward to doing more of that stuff. So yeah, follow us, Slack Sabbath, and I promise you stuff's going to be coming up quickly with that. We're talking with some other bands about doing some mutual shows together. So hopefully that's a thing that will be up and functioning sooner than later. Hopefully that'll move very quickly. I'm also working with another band called the RAD Band. They're a band that's been trying to get together for a couple of years, and they're sort of a variety pop blues band with a horn section. I recently rehearsed with them, and great bunch of folks getting their stuff together. So we've got a video production that we are getting ready to do here soon, mainly as promotion for getting that band with some proper booking agents and stuff like that. So no shows to mention that they've got coming up immediately, but we've got some video promotion coming up, or video recording that we're going to do. So as soon as I have something on that, I will absolutely press that along too, because they're a great bunch of folks. Yeah, just trying to stay busy. 2025, I'm still kind of in the post-COVID apocalypse where so much of my earnings got wiped out during COVID when we couldn't work, and just living off of debt, that when we did start going back to work, it seems like I've just been managing my debt a bit, and that while some things still seem like they've been going really great for other bands, at least for the work that I've been doing, that work hasn't come back 100% yet. So I've got gaps in my calendar, which is partly why I'm taking on a lot of work again. The two reasons to take on more work: I need to work. I need to work to pay bills and to pay down debt, and all of that stuff, as well as to fund projects, which I'm getting to in terms of my own personal music, and that's going to require budgets. So I really kind of ended 2024 thinking, okay, I have enough gaps in my schedule now to where I either need to get picked up by another band that's working a lot, or maybe consider getting the dreaded day job or something, which I've done before, where I worked for a warehouse and a screen printing company, doing stuff. And that is great, but it takes a lot of time away from playing the guitar, so I'm really hoping I can keep my foot on the gas for that stuff. So the last thing that kind of got going at the moment, besides guesting on some records, there's a record coming out. Hopefully this year I'll have an announcement about it. Some friends of mine in Europe, they have a band called Crystal Tears, and I recently did a guest solo for a track called Chaos Thy Name, which I had some fun with. I really tried to do something different, that's still sort of emphatically, what kind of crazy stuff would you imagine me doing if I was invited to play on a heavy metal track, but also weird enough to not just sound like your conventional heavy metal solo. So I'm kind of excited for everybody to hear that. It's kind of my kind of leaning into a little bit of more of my appreciation for guitar players like Marty Friedman and Robert Fripp. If you can imagine that sort of pairing with that. Of course, it sounds like neither of those guys, because as much as I love them both, I desperately cannot play like them. So it's my humble attempt to be influenced by all the things that I love that I've heard those guys do. So that was a really fun thing to record. I've also recorded recently for a band called Backward Blue. I'm trying to remember the name of the track that the album has been released, and I'm trying to remember the name of the track that I contributed a solo to. But it was a really fun solo. It's the first thing I've released in a long time. They convinced me to guest a while ago, and it's the first thing I got done that's actually been released in a very long time. So, and I'm so happy and grateful for Matt and the guys reaching out to me. One, just to have me participate, but also, just as fellowship and brothers and wanting to get me back in the game. It's no accident that we're friends, and the influence that you guys have had in my life, and just showing up for me and doing your best to draw me out. I'm aware, and I am grateful, so thank you. It's been a big step in me getting to where I am right now. Also did a guest solo for my old teacher and dear friend Tom Yoder, who's been working on a record for a while. Around the same time that I did the Backward Blue solo, Tom invited me to do a guest solo on a tune for his album, which I know is a belabored record, much like my own, that's been in the works. So I'll be excited for everyone to hear it when Tom gets around to releasing that stuff. Tom is the guy that really kind of brought me forward as a young guitar player. I did a lot of self-transcription, a lot of self-study. I did study classical guitar for a while. I studied jazz guitar for a while up in New Hampshire at a community music college called the Concord Community Music School when I was very young, and I did learn a lot of stuff there. But Tom really kind of helped put Soul Control. Thank you, Lee. Soul Control is the name of the track, and it's wonderful. The whole record is wonderful, but Soul Control is the name of that track. Yeah, I learned a lot at the Concord Community Music School, but Tom really caught me at a good time where I was trying to piece together a lot of things and just figure out who I am as a guitar player and my ambition as a musician. he made me believe in myself in a way that I had not. And it wasn't that I was confident as a young guitar player. I don't think I was confident. I was capable. Coming from a musical family and having studied music from such a young age, I've had a maturity playing that I was aware of that maturity, but I certainly was not confident. Um, there were things that I believed were beyond my reach, technically, musically, emotionally, and Tom really helped focus my efforts and showed me that I could do a lot of things that I did not believe I would ever be able to do. Um, so thank you, Tom, for all of that. And all of these years later, like when I teach now, I'm very aware of wanting to be a teacher to my students as Tom was a teacher to me. Because it was more than just guitar lessons. It was really a mentorship that blossomed into a lifelong friendship that I am so grateful for. So yes, beyond humbled to get to play on a record with my longtime friend and guitar teacher Tom. So I'm excited when that gets released. It was fun to do. Tom is one of the most amazing guitar players I've ever seen on the planet. The fact that he's not famous as famous can be is a tragedy in this lifetime, because everybody should know Tom and his work. He's so great. So yeah, that is another thing that I have guested on. And all that comes back to say, yes, teaching is another way that I do keep up with everything and pay bills and all of that stuff. Lessons have been a great blessing, and teaching remotely has been the thing that I've been doing for a number of years. It saved my ass during COVID, and is continuing to save my ass now. So to all students, former, present, and future, I say thank you. If there's anything that I can help bring to your attention or help you understand, wrestle with, find an answer for, because I certainly don't have all the answers, but I am ferocious and voracious in my appetites for knowledge and information. If I can help understand it and help share that information in a way that you can understand, that is the greatest gift to me that I can possibly have as a teacher, is just turning people on to just wonderful information. Music has saved my life in every way imaginable. It continues to save my life. I feel like it is truly my purpose in this planet, not just to write it and to perform it, but to share the fire for it that will turn other people onto it. You know, whether you do it professionally as a vocation or personally as a meditation and a spiritual thing, music is just such a wonderful gift that we can share in this world. So I'm humbled to be the smallest part of that I possibly can be. So teaching is a big thing. If I can teach you, please reach out, and I will love to schedule a lesson with you about anything. Acoustic guitar, electric guitar, 7-string guitar, 8-string guitar. I'm really bad at 8-string guitar. I keep working at it though. Acoustic guitar, classical guitar, jazz guitar. I'm a really terrible jazz guitar player, but don't let that stop you from asking me about jazz, because I have found in other conversations with people who are not trying to be jazz guitar players, I have at least turned a lot of people on to jazz and helped them grow their appreciation for jazz when they didn't think it was for them. So if I could just be a bridge, my passion for jazz and loving jazz, even if I don't feel like I speak the language of jazz very well on my own instrument, my enthusiasm for it, if I can help share that, and some of my most favorite pieces of music are on jazz records, and I love to be able to share that with everybody. Music helps us express things and feel things in ways that I know I struggle with in everyday life. So anything I can do with that is also super important to me. And that brings me to, all right, Mike, what are you doing with your music? Because if you've been a friend of mine or followed me on social media for a number of years, there's been so much talk. I'm really going back to 2010 when I re-released 2 of 5 on Steve Vai's record label. that was really a shot in the ass for my career and my self-esteem at a time when I desperately needed it. I will forever be grateful to Steve for the opportunity, for taking a chance with me, with his label, with his business, to allow me to be a part of that in just the smallest of ways. It opened up and continues to open up opportunities and conversations that I never could have anticipated, because it immediately gave me an association that otherwise I don't know that I'm worthy of. But people are willing to look my way and give me a listen because of it. So thank you, Steve, for that, and everybody at Favored Nations. It allowed me to do things like open for Richie Kotzen, open for Tony McAlpine on a complete tour, and on other independent shows doing my own stuff. Open for Yngwie Malmsteen and Bumblefoot and Gary Hoey, as well as open for Steve Vai himself. Some of the feathers in my cap of performances that were just bucket list. I don't think I'll ever be able to do this, and then I found myself in places on stages in cities doing the very thing, just pinching myself going, I know I've been working my ass off to get here, but still not believing that I actually got those places. Some of the depression stuff and anxiety stuff is a part of that, like not really fully believing that I belong there, and worthy of doing that my music should be there and that I should be there. And I know that's a lot of just thinking, thought stuff that I'm processing through, and I'm sure I'll talk more about that kind of stuff on these live chats. I got asked years ago in an interview, and I don't remember who was doing the interview with me. I'm always just so gobsmacked that anybody wants to interview me. But they were asking me about what do I do and how do I feel about and how do I deal with imposter syndrome. And at the time it was a new phrase to me. I didn't really understand what it meant, because I never personally felt like I was acting as an imposter or pretending to be something that I wasn't. I've been very fortunate in all of the gigs that I've done, whether it was Jana, Fozzy, Stuck Mojo, the Duke Project, Dreaded Marco, Agent Cooper, anything I've been involved with, I at least feel like I was invited honestly to play with them for the stuff that I do and the way I think about music, and the whole presentation of the whole thing. And in that way, that's the greatest blessing. It wasn't just that I could play anything, so play this like so-and-so, play this like so-and-so. I've never really been asked to imitate anyone. I've been invited and encouraged to show up fully as myself, and that's really humbling. I know a lot of musicians who've played on a lot of records. They've had really wonderful long careers, and you're not always asked to do that. And I've certainly done plenty of sessions where I've been asked to channel different musicians and styles and stuff like that. That's a part of the job, being a session musician. But for the most part, if my name has been on it, it's been an invitation for me to show up, and they want what it sounds like for me to be on that, good, bad, or indifferent, and that's a really humble blessing. I didn't really know what to do with that question. How do I deal with imposter syndrome? Because I never felt like I was pretending to be anything. And while I was very ambitious in my younger years and just on this trajectory of just moving forward, as strongly and as resolutely, with as much integrity as I possibly could, I didn't really stop for much, save the odd amount of time off where I'm trying to recalibrate and figure out, well, what's the next thing? what do I got to do to make the next turn? There were those periods, but I never doubted what I was doing or the path that I was on. There was never a question of like, well, maybe I should stop, or should I stop? That never really, that really never came to my consciousness. I always felt pretty good about doing this, and being able to make a living doing it, as well as serving my soul with it. But it was around, I guess, 2015, 2016, when I started work on what I'm about to get into, the bulk of the work that I've got coming up. And really thinking about, well, what is next? What's the next thing for me? Because every other project I had at that point was not really happening. Whether bands wanted to move on with other guitar players, or life stuff was happening and people were not in a position to perform as much as I wanted to perform and record as much as I wanted to record. You know, where things just deflated. They didn't really break up and end. They just kind of went into a stasis naturally. And I took the opportunity for that natural lull just to go, okay, I've been writing all of this music for a long time. And some of the stuff found pieces in records that I worked on with other bands. Some of them were just in concept. Some of them weren't necessarily in full songs, but just the germ of the idea, the spirit of those things found their way into those records. So it gave me an opportunity to like, all right, well, let's circle the wagons and look at all this stuff. And I found that there was a cohesive amount of music that became this Drive album. And at a time where everybody was kind of questioning, should you do full albums? Should you do singles? Should you do EPs? I remember having a long phone conversation with one of my dear friends, amazing guitar player and human being, Angel Vivaldi. I've known Angel since 2003. He's really family to me. And we don't get to talk as often as I like, but usually when we get on the phone, we chop it up for, a couple hours, catching up on all the stuff. Just what a beautiful spirit and person in my life. Like, I love him so much. He's been there for me through just about everything I've gone through. Looking for work, getting on with Fozzy, being on MTV, touring the world, doing all that stuff, doing it with Stuck Mojo, making records. Like, he's been a consistent friend in my life and an inspiration, not just as a guitar player and musician, but as a human being. He really is a dear, dear friend and family to me. But we were having a conversation around about that time where I was questioning a lot of the stuff, and he was like, man, you get all this music. And I was like, yeah, man, it's 20 compositions. That's what the Drive record is. It's 20 compositions in various states of undress, totaling somewhere in excess of 2 hours worth of music. And in my head, it became this monolith, this gigantic thing of, I want to do a double gatefold vinyl pressing of this album with artwork, and I wanted to have curated individual pieces of art for every composition, because it's all about mental health, and it's autobiographical, and it's all this stuff, and I wanted it to be just this massive outpouring of just therapy and just working through all of this stuff. And I commissioned an artist to start working on stuff, and we got into it. But Angel and I were talking at one point. I think he could tell, A, I was really enthusiastic about the project, but B, that I was already kind of setting myself up for overwhelm with how to navigate with all that stuff. And Angel always has a really wonderful way of communicating to me in a way that I can hear and will resonate with me. I'll really listen. And he suggested, he's like, what about doing a series of singles? From a professional standpoint, you don't burn out trying to do it all at once. And then also you don't burn out this really intense fire of like, here's an awful lot of work. And then once it's out, it's kind of done. And then, you're trying to meter out whatever promotion and performance you can get out of that over time. But in this post-apocalyptic internet age, the attention span of most people is very short. And as soon as people have consumed a thing and they love it, and hopefully they love it and they enjoy it, like it's very often the next question is like, what's next? When are you doing the next thing? And that's, while it's wonderful, it's somebody inviting me and letting me know that they want to hear more. It's also a bit hard for an artist, especially like me, where you put all your stuff out and you're like, this is everything. Like I've not slept, I've not eaten, I've not bathed, I've isolated myself, I've alienated myself from people that I love and care very much about to birth this work. And here it is, look at it. And when people ask you, well, what's the next thing? It's like, I don't know that I'm ready to do the next thing. I kind of have to deal with this. It's cost me a lot, not just in terms of money sacrificed and time sacrificed, but in relationship sacrificed and life sacrificed. It ends up being a bit of everything. So his wisdom on that of like, consider doing it as a series of singles or a series of EPs. Maybe, and I don't remember he said it in the conversation, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't at least hint at it, like you can save your mental health a little bit if you like take bites. These are bites that you can accomplish and keep you excited and keep that fire burning in your belly for the next thing. And then when inevitably maybe it doesn't go as well as you would like, and you start thinking, okay, well that kind of flopped. It didn't get me the attention that I wanted and the business that I needed to see. So, I can move to the next thing that becomes an apparent thing that's available, is just being able to pivot and move to the next bit of music that you've got in the queue. It's all planned, already know the song order and all that stuff. So I thought about all that intensely and just I really had to sit with it. And all of that was kind of before I had my sort of my mental breakdown. I tried doing some shows. I wanted to try playing some of the stuff that was new. Didn't work out. I was not in an emotional headspace to be able to deal with that stuff. And that I had already stopped working on the record, and some of the gigs that I did, one of the last ones was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, at a club that a friend of mine ran that I went to high school with, and so many friends from high school were there at the gig, and it was a really lovely time, and I was so happy to be there and get to play my music for a lot of people that I've known for many, many years, that have been supporting me all these years. I was also very aware of my disappointment and my own personal failure, that one of the things I very much wanted to do was play some new music to give me a shot in the ass to get back to work on it. Because in 2016 I had started working on it like a fever dream in January, February, and March. And I got all that stuff roughly demoed out. And then in April is kind of when I started flaking apart. Needed to stop. I've talked about mental health issues before. And like I said, this album was my idea of therapy, but not just therapy, like scream therapy, like yelling into the void and like being as vulnerable as a guitar player, as a human being as possible, both as a writer and as a performer. And what I found in some ways is that I had written myself into a corner where there are a couple of things on the record that I had started writing that are technically beyond me, and I knew that that was going to take a lot of work to practice to be able to perform the things that I was writing. And while on the one hand that's exhilarating to be a composer and write beyond my technical capability on the guitar, exhilarating is the only word I can think of for it. Because that's some place that I've been trying to get to for a very long time, where my musical concepts transcend the idea of being a guitar player, because I'm sure a lot of musicians out there feel the same way, that sometimes we get so adept at doing this that when I'm writing, sometimes because I can do a thing, I write the thing that I can do. And that's very satisfactory and satisfying in some ways, but in other ways I'm aware of how that's holding me back as a writer, as an expressive, vulnerable, emotional artist. Because when I think of me as the artist, you know, it's more than the guitar thing. It's the everything. It's the humanity of the whole thing. So I was exhilarated by that, but also terrified of that I had not been pushed in a way like that in a very long time. And I was certainly becoming aware of some of my misgivings and some of my faults as a guitar player, or at least my hang-ups, what my deficits were. And I had some conversations at the time when I was really wrestling with that, and I have not attempted to work on or play any of that composition since then, really. But I had some conversations with a friend of mine who's a massage therapist. Was having a weird thing going on with my hands where I wasn't having any pain, but I would find myself at different times where I would go to tie my shoes and then my hands would just stop. I would just drop shoelaces, or would be doing a simple thing like not be able to hold onto a guitar pick, dropping a toothbrush, or having an issue holding a fork or a knife. Again, no numbness, no pain or anything like that. It was like my hands would just go lame in a weird way, and I didn't know what that was from. I've had some back injuries from falling a few times, also from years of jumping around like a muppet. Playing heavy metal shows is probably not the best thing for your neck and back, so if I have nerve damage, I think I've earned it, honestly. So that led me to conversations about that stuff. I've not had any problems with my hands since then, but I've also stopped lifting weights. That was one thing that I stopped in 2017. And while other parts of me feel desperately out of shape and are kicking my ass to go back to the gym, I do feel better with my hands, not trying to lift weights aggressively. So that's another thing that kind of came up along the way. And then other things I found that some of the pieces that I was writing were beyond me emotionally, because I was trying to be so sincere in what I was writing that while on the one hand I could technically play them, as I leaned into the emotional interpretation of the stuff, I was having a very difficult time not tapping into the emotion. That's never really been a problem that I've had. If anything, I have the opposite problem, where when I really connect emotionally when I'm performing, it's embarrassing to weep publicly, where you cry uncontrollably. I've had problems with that stuff. I've had to leave performances. I've told the story several times. I was playing at Gem Fest in 2010 with several of my friends. Angel Vivaldi was there, Rob Balducci was there. As a matter of fact, Rob Balducci and I were starting the conversations talking about some of the things that I've chosen to do with this signature guitar that I've had made by Delaney Guitars. But Steve Vai happened to be able to come to that performance. GemFest always raised money for the Make a Noise Foundation, which is a charity that Steve Vai promotes, and it champions instruments for underprivileged children. So it really is involved in music education, which is near and dear to my heart. I was lucky to grow up in a musical family, so music was always around and available to me. And music, as I said, has saved my life in more ways than one, more times than I can possibly recount. So being in any way, shape, or form involved with something that could help a kid find the joy in the expression of studying music, whether it's a guitar or the trombone or a violin or a drum set or piano or whatever, like just what a beautiful charity. But that being an anniversary, it was GemFest 10. It was the 10th GemFest ever. Steve had a break in his schedule where he was able to come and attend, and GemFest, the promoters of GemFest have been putting on that festival all of those years, presented Steve with a check for all that, and Steve did a master class, but Steve also came and watched us perform, which is terrifying. Not that I ever get terrified playing in front of somebody famous. I've done that multiple times. But Steve's one of my heroes, and I had met him before, but not in this kind of situation. And fortunately, unfortunately, GemFest is in a conference center at a hotel, so all of the lights are on. So you can see the face of every individual that was there in attendance. And let me tell you, when somebody like Steve Vai walks in the room and it's lit up like that, you know exactly who just walked in the room, and you know exactly who's staring at you while you're playing. And I noticed that with like the first song that I was playing in my set, that Steve had come in, and for a minute it got in my head. I was like, oh my God, there he is, oh my God, there he is. And then it's like, you just gotta be cool, you just gotta get beyond that. So I did manage to get my stuff together. Along the way, I broke my whammy bar going a little too ham, trying to reassert myself back into my body, doing all of that stuff and less in my head. Played the rest of the set, and the band was great. Everybody played so well and really supported me musically in a way that just made me feel invincible. I was so grateful to have that band of musicians with me. And at the end of the last tune of my set, I really knew I had done the business, and was pretty overwhelmed. And I knew that I connected with some stuff. Not just like, I didn't feel like I necessarily played guitar real good in front of Steve, but I did feel like I played very emotionally and very connectedly. Because you have that feeling in the room. When it happens, it's a communal thing. You know people's emotions are on, and it's just a feedback thing that all comes in. Anyway, it was overwhelming. And it's always overwhelming when it happens, but then the realization after the gig when I'm trying to wrap up so that the next performer could come on, as people are saying very lovely things to me, I'm realizing that not only had I just done this, but I just did this in front of Steve Vai. I had to leave the room for about 20 minutes, and I just crawled into a little ball on the floor under a table in an empty conference room and just bawled for about 20 minutes, and then wiped off my snot bubbles and tried to get myself back together and get the red out of my eyes and go back to the hall and talk to some people. So writing music that invites that opportunity for me as a performer, not to demonstrate firepower, but to just be connected in that sort of way. I was realizing as I was playing this stuff that I was unable to play it emotionally with full vulnerability, like my emotions were stopping me technically. I didn't have enough command of my technique to just play emotionally and forget about my hands. Like everything was kind of stopping me. And hopefully, as I start releasing this music, you'll hear a little bit of what I'm talking about. And I don't want to get to a place where I'm numb and I can just play this stuff technically and accurately and be like, there, isn't that a pretty tune? I want to show up, I want to set myself on fire and be consumed by that and share that. And if I can't do that, I'm not really as interested in that anymore for my own music. It's way more fun to go play other people's music and just serve it up and celebrate the guitar and celebrate tunes that I like. That's great, but for my music, like I really want it to be that, and I want to share that every time, no exceptions. And that's a crazy benchmark that has also set me off on the path on why it's taken me so long to do stuff. So where am I? Again, circle around. What's new for 2025? So as I am pulling my collective brain muscles and heart muscles together to deal with the Drive album, I feel like I'm in a better place to deal with it now. Am I better? No, absolutely not. Like, I have been waiting around to feel better. I have spent almost a decade, the entirety of my 40s, waiting to feel better until I could do a thing, only to come to the realization that I'm not going to feel better. And the only thing that I'm missing out on is life. I'm not doing the life stuff, and not working on this music is a big part of not doing the life stuff. So I'll recite the lyric again. I'm done fighting off change. No wonder my arms are still swinging. I'm so addicted to that traumatic isolation, unhealthy boundary of just fighting everything off of me and everyone off of me, that the only person I've really hurt is myself, and not being willing and able to make the emotional changes in my life that I need to make. And I feel like, if for no other reason, life is just kind of forcing something forward now. Maybe it's realizing that I spent my 40s hoping that I would just wake up one day feeling ready to work, but just rested enough, be ready to work. That if I could just be still and find some peace, that I would be ready. And that I realize so much of the peace that I don't have here. I don't have it here. It's not here. And the only times that I ever really felt better, and like I can be sociable and enjoy life and be out in the world, is when I'm actually playing music and I'm writing music and I'm actively performing it. I'm getting it out into the world, and it has some purpose, even if it's just the purpose of, I just need this to exist right now because I just need it to exist right now. And that's maybe one of the biggest parts of me that I've let just wither on the vine for almost 10 years now, that some of what has kept me from moving forward the last few years, COVID notwithstanding, is a little bit of the guilt rumination of feeling like I'm stupid for putting myself through that, for not just getting up when you know you just need to get up. Every other time I've had a problem in my life, I've just gotten up and gotten to work, and like, it doesn't fix everything, but some solutions present themselves and others don't. But you move forward. You keep moving forward. You keep at it. And that sort of negative talk is also a defense mechanism that I built up a long, long time ago, that I realized that, people can be cruel and they can be harsh. So my defense mechanism was, I can be meaner to me than anybody could possibly be. So if there's a cruel thing anybody ever wanted to say to me, I've thought 100 times worse. I've already dug myself the deepest hole that I can put myself in. That when somebody lobs an insult, it's amateur hour. It doesn't bother me as much. It always bothers me, but it doesn't bother me as much because I can just go, yeah, well, they don't even know about this other stuff that I think I am too. So that idea of, holding myself back and then beating myself up and being cruel to myself about holding myself back has been a thing. I started this process a year ago. Where I felt like I was ready to make some moves. It was months before my 50th birthday. Not necessarily held up by turning a certain number. I've never really cared about being the youngest guy in the room or the oldest guy in the room. That doesn't really matter to me. But 50 is a number. You notice it. And I had reached out to a dear friend of mine to start working on the record with me and start recording some drums for me, and just getting back on the board. And I'll do a separate talk about all of that sometime very soon in great detail at length. But right after that, sadly, my dear friend left us. And he left us in a way that I had almost left. And he knew about my struggles with that, so it was really hard for me. It's still hard for me. And it's only been a year since that's happened. And he's one of the very few people that I could talk to very honestly and vulnerably. And that's a loss that I will feel forever. But he was also someone I could lean on in other times, in other ways when I needed him. And my wanting to get my confidence back and start moving in this way, and him not being available in that way really had to make me deal with that and deal with not being passive about this. Not being passive about getting back to work and believing in myself and not just sitting around and waiting to die, but actually being courageous enough to get up and continue to live. And the grieving process has been hard, and it's ongoing. And so a year later, I apologize for my break in decorum. A year later, it's time to get back and keep moving. And like I said, I can't do it passively. I can't just lean on my big brother. Just be like, I don't know if I can do this, but maybe if you'll do it, I'll kind of believe, kind of not believe that I can do it again. I don't get to do that, and that's not part of, I think, what's intended for me and my healing journey with all of this stuff. I am meant to be purposeful and intentful and deal with every ounce of it. And as much as I've tried to shield myself from every ounce of everything that I've been trying to protect myself from, that just doesn't seem like that gets to be the way. So I gave myself the year, and I've come back out to do some work. I'll make an announcement soon. I have sent a single. The single, you may have heard me play it on a live stream. I have performed it live once a year ago, maybe almost 2 years, a year and a half ago now. It's a song called Learning to Sleep. I've invited a very dear friend of mine, amazing drummer, to play drums on it. He has the session now, and he's going to be getting that back to me here as soon as time permits. And then I will finish up the guitar tracking on that and get it mixed. I'll mix it myself. Not sure what I'm going to do for mastering yet. I am aware of things like Dolby Atmos, and I may start having conversations with people about Atmos mixes soon. But I'm not going to worry about that with this first single right off the bat. I just want to get it done. I want to get it on the board. I want to get it out by early May. That is the plan. And it's with purpose and an intent. And there's nothing passive about it. It's just getting after the work. In my exuberance for getting back to work is also when I accepted the job to play with Slack Sabbath. I also accepted the job to help the RAD band with getting their stuff up and running and get their video stuff produced. I'm entertaining a few other things as well. I also have another great opportunity at the end of May that I've told very few people about, and I'll be very excited and happy to tell everybody about it as soon as I possibly can. But it's a show that's coming up at the end of May. When I can share details about it, I will. I will certainly get pictures and video. It will be one for the books, which is how I know that things are maybe ready for me to start. Not that I need a big opportunity like this to feel like I'm on the right path, but I am humbled that as I am leaning my intention back into playing music and writing and recording my own music, that the energy in the world around me seems to be coalescing in these positive. Anyway, so that's the plan. I have, at the moment, sorry about the snot bubbles. I didn't intend on going there. The plan is, I have 5 singles ready to play. And I think I put a post up on this on my Facebook page, just on the titles of what I'm working on. There's a song called Learning to Sleep. That'll be the first one out. The next one is called Waiting. Everything's autobiographical. So very emotional, lifetime insomniac, and as I ruminate about stuff, of course I can't sleep. All I do is think about terrible things. Waiting is also a song that's autobiographical, about this idea of waiting to feel okay enough to do a thing, waiting for life to finally be good enough to start enjoying it, like just waiting to start living life. It's a song about that. So I think I've in some ways captured the spirit of all of that stuff. So those are the first 2. As soon as I get this first track back, I'll be sending off the second track to start drum production on that. I don't know what my release schedule is going to be. I will be pacing these out. I want to get them done and then pace out the release of them over time. I don't think it's going to be quite a once a month kind of thing. I want to see how they do. I kind of have to do this without the worry of business, because as soon as I start worrying about business and how, if these things can pay for themselves, can I break even with this stuff, let alone try to make a profit with it, the doom cloud comes over me and I stop working on stuff. So I can't think about money with any of these things. I'm just getting it done. I'm going to get the first one released and we'll see how I feel. And hopefully by the time I get the first one released, the second one will be about ready to mix. And I should have a release date for that sometime this summer. And then the subsequent releases hopefully through the end of the year into next year. But also as the preparatory work for, I have decided the Drive record is going to be broken up into EP chapters. So those are bites. Thank you, Angel Vivaldi, for convincing me that is an idea worth considering. Because I do think that's a way that I can manage to get it done. So I think I have found a way artistically that I feel good about releasing. It is a programmatic release. So not only the songs, but the listing and the order of the songs are germane to one another. It's intended to be digested as a large piece of work. So hopefully this EP release, I feel like I can do that in a way that will honor that original intent. And then once all the EPs are released, we'll see about what to do at the end of that. I mentioned the Atmos mixes. I do think that there's some good opportunities with that record to maybe look at doing Atmos mixes with that. So I may have to stage all of this stuff out. It may start as just digital releases, that I release through my website, and then as I release the next thing, then I will release the previous release to Spotify and Apple Music. I don't make any money on streaming. I'm not discouraging you from streaming any of my stuff that's on Apple Music or on Spotify now. You have to be on these platforms, but the returns for streaming does not pay for the releases. It does not pay for the production of the songs. It doesn't pay for the light bill to be on while I'm doing this stuff. It's really pretty sad. But you kind of have to play with these monster corporations, so I'm not avoiding that, but I'll release it first myself and try to get everybody, you guys who have been with me the whole time as my prima facie producers, promoters, board members, stockholders, stakeholders, get it to you guys first in a way that you guys will consume and can support me to give me the courage to get on to the next thing. I don't want to saddle you guys with the I got to go on Spotify thing. It'll be available. You'll be able to stream it on my website. You'll be able to purchase it on and download it on my website. And then when it's ready to share up, the next there'll be a little revolving release thing going on with all of that stuff. So lots of things in the works with that. Along the way with that, I have also written, I say I haven't done anything, and I've been waiting for 9 years, almost 10 years to do stuff. I constantly write, and I have a multitude of ideas that I am desperate to get to, and that was part of the idea of the Drive album, was I kind of wanted to make a big statement artistically so I could turn the ship of my career in a way that made sense. So that for anybody there who got to know me before I was in any band that anybody had ever heard of, you probably heard me do a lot of different stuff. And then for the people who came on board when they saw me in bands like Fozzy or Stuck Mojo or The Duke or Agent Cooper or The Dreaded Marco, all of those things are very much a part of my personality, but I'm not endeavoring to write a heavy metal record. I'm not endeavoring just to write a progressive rock record or a jazz record or a classical record or any of that stuff. All of those things are bits, pieces, and parcels of me and my identity as an artist and as a human being anyway. So trying to find a way that I can put all that stuff in context to where it makes sense, so that for the people who want to hear shred guitar, there's that stuff, and for the people who just want to hear great guitar music, not necessarily be overwhelmed by, overplaying or something like that. You just want to hear, good melodies and good harmony and well thought out ideas performed. Most of it will be like that, and hopefully in a context that you want to listen to, not just when you're feeling aggressive and just want to hear some loud guitar music while you're driving on the highway. That some stuff can be played when you're just at home and want to chill, or when you want to contemplate stuff, or you just want to enjoy some music for no good reason at all. Hopefully meeting a lot of those criteria. But that was the idea with the Drive record, to turn that ship so that I can get to this other stuff. I have another EP called Numbers that is in production. There's a lot of work going on with that. I also have another EP, and I don't know when I'm going to get to the actual production of these things and the promotion of these things. Some of these may get done in and around, in between the Drive EPs getting released. But there's a lot of stuff in context. So I'm constantly working on things, and I'm just really excited to get back to work on doing that stuff. So that's kind of the plan. Last plans, and then I'll get back in the chat and read some stuff from anybody who's still hanging out, see if comments have come up. Next year, 2026, is the 20th anniversary of the independent release of my first and only solo record, 205. I cannot believe it's been almost 20 years. That's also part of the I got to get up out of this hole, because 10 of those 20 years, 10 years after releasing a record doesn't seem like that long. It's some time, but it's not that long. Ready for the next release, which is when I was going to do the Drive record. 20 years now that I've sat on my ass, feeling sorry for myself and just waiting for lightning to strike, is too much. So I want to celebrate that release. I want to acknowledge it. That was a momentous thing in my life, in my career. That album opened doors for me I couldn't have possibly imagined. So I want to do something to recognize it. My plan is probably, I'll just put this out into the world, and hopefully I'll make an announcement as soon as I can find a way to make financial sense. I would love, it was always the plan to do a vinyl release of it, so I am looking at vinyl pressing companies now to see what's positive, what's affordable, what's even plausible in this moment right now to actually get that done. It's expensive, but I think it's worthwhile. So what I may do with that, I may open that up. I don't necessarily like the idea of a GoFundMe. I get told all the time for all of my financial woes I should do GoFundMes for stuff because people would support. But like, I'd rather offer good work and people support the work as a way to support me. So maybe that's a pride thing. Pray for me. I'm praying for me over that. Like, I think my pride has kept me in dark, isolated rooms long enough to where if there are things that I can do to open myself up to that can be helpful, I'm open to it. But if I don't do a GoFundMe, maybe some kind of a pre-order thing where I can set up a campaign for the vinyl release, understanding what the cost of pressing all the vinyl will be, and set a threshold of however many number of people actually want it who will pre-order it, whatever that covers. If that's enough to fund a release that will give me copies to sell beyond that, I will do that. If it does nothing else but it only affords to sell the few copies that those few individuals wanted, then so be it. I think it's worthwhile doing that. I would love to make that happen. So that's the thing that I'm working on. Again, with the Dolby Atmos thing, I'm looking into that. I don't know anybody that mixes in Atmos here in Atlanta. I do know of a guy up in Tennessee and Nashville that does it, but I feel like he's very busy. So I'm going to reach out to him and have a conversation with him soon about his schedule, what to anticipate with that, the costs of that, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's a good reason to do that with the modern streaming platforms. It seems like there's an encouragement to move into Atmos mixes and binaural mixes as technology is afforded moving in that direction. So those things. With that, there was one track that I recorded, didn't finish, just wasn't going to make the cut for 205. I don't know that I will finish it and include it in the release, but I may release it in tandem as a bonus track digitally. It's a song that if you knew me before Fozzy and Stuck Mojo and all that stuff, if I had a hit single, this song, My Reason, that I wrote and have performed hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 times, it's the closest thing to a hit song that I have, that people know me for, people wanted to hear it, people would request it at shows, which is humbling to have written a thing that people resonated with. So it was always intended to be included with 205 because it was probably one of my, in some ways, my strongest composition that I had field tested. It had been performed enough times to where I knew people liked it. I could get connected when I played it, and it connected emotionally with audiences. So it felt like the obvious thing that was going to be on the record. So when I had to make the decision to pull it from production, it was a head scratcher because it seemed to be antithetical to the very idea of releasing a record. It was the right decision to do. It's a slower tune, it's a ballad, and there were enough slower tunes on 205 with songs like Epiphany which isn't exactly a ballad, but it's a slow tempo tune. And Peace Be With You, again, not a ballad, but a slow tempo tune. And then Lavender certainly is a ballad. So that was already 3 songs. And I tend to write mid-tempo kind of stuff anyway. So as I was looking at the whole record and the energy of the whole thing, that just seemed like that was one too many that were too slow. So I wanted to pull it for that reason. And also the other reason was having performed that song many times, and there are versions available out there. It's a poem. It is a sound sculpture. It needs to be performed. It needs to be improvised. It does not have a written out guitar solo for it. Improvised almost every time that I've played it. And in that way, like that's part of my affinity for loving jazz and improvisational music, is like you're required to show up with all of your faculties for a tune like that, and like when you don't have it, man, you know it. Man, you know you don't have it. But then the days when you do have it, it's really rewarding and really something to experience when you're connecting with the musicians on stage and you really feel this emotional channel just happen, and everybody's connected to it, and the audience is there connecting to it. Knowing that experience with performing that piece of music, the way it was going in production, was not going to honor that. So I'll make more of an announcement about that as the days wear closer, because I have half the production of that from the Time Machine back in 2005 when I started production on the record. And then along with that, I have some other things that I'm wanting to do with my YouTube channel. So this Tuesday thing will hopefully be a weekly live chat thing. I want to make a point to live stream something like this, where even if it's just bloviating and talking at the camera, just so I'm doing it for myself as a way of journaling. Again, my accountability of showing up and just checking in with myself and you guys about what am I doing, how am I feeling about it, you know, getting a little bit of immediate feedback, you know, outside of this little room that I'm imprisoned in by myself, to feel like it's all for a purpose. So the weekly Tuesday seems to be the day that it's going to happen. If as this goes, if you guys think that maybe another day would line with your schedules a little bit better, or maybe a time that works a little bit better, kind of being a little impromptu with it, because I just kind of want to, like, the fear of doing the thing of like, oh, I can't do it right, so I'm not going to do it. I want to cut off those circuit to failures. I want to remove those stumbling blocks and obstacles that I naturally am putting in front of myself to stop me from doing things. So it may be this impromptu kind of thing where, like, it's Tuesday, so I was doing a thing, and I show up, and maybe I do it at a time where nobody shows up for it, and hopefully you guys just watch it later, and it's just me talking at the camera. But I need to get this stuff up on YouTube. Like, my YouTube channel needs to be active. I need to post more things, and I need to get more views on my channel to get it back to getting monetized. So while you're here, please consider subscribing to my channel. My subscription numbers certainly help the algorithm and help the YouTube people that be, how they I don't know how they tabulate all this stuff, but as they get my analytics up for being monetized and all that stuff, it helps greatly. So please consider watching some videos while you're here too. So subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll promise not to wear you out with that stuff. Like videos while you're here. If you can do that, that'll be great. And watch some other videos and like those too. And if you see something that strikes you, whether it's a performance video or another chat, I've got a bunch of chats that are probably cringe up on here that I started doing a while ago called The Second Cup, where I was trying to talk about life, the universe, and everything. And that's kind of what this is going to be. But things that were going on that year just hit me at a bad time, and I kind of felt like I was going in the wrong direction with it. So I checked swing on all of that stuff. But I'm not going to hide any of those things. All that stuff is out there. I posted it. I said that stuff. Cringe be damned. I did it. Like I'll just have to wear that cloak, wear those shoes, lace them up, and get comfy with them. So yeah, these will be a weekly thing. I'm thinking about some other musical things that I can do as well. Two ideas that I have. One I am calling Under the Influence, where I like playing other people's music. I would like to start doing some cover music. I don't really consider myself a cover artist, but having been in a corporate band for a number of years now and playing so much pop music, people ask me if I get bored with that because it's not guitar virtuoso stuff. It's a very demanding gig, and it's an incredible band. Like, you got to be able to hang to do this gig. These charts aren't easy. They're very difficult, and I'm very grateful that I've been entrusted with the guitar chair for this band as long as I have been. And I play every gig, whatever the tune is. People ask me, like, do I care if I'm playing a Taylor Swift song or a Miley Cyrus song or anything? Like, no, I don't care about that stuff. I play everything as if I'm playing for the artist. If Miley Cyrus called me and said, hey, we need you to play guitar, okay. I'm not going to show up and be like, oh man, I'm playing for Miley Cyrus. This isn't exactly my dream gig. Like, every gig is my dream gig. Every venue is Madison Square Garden, and you show up that way. So I play that way, no matter how simple the tune. I revel in the energy it takes to play consistently, emotionally, connectedly, and never phoning it in. Always being 100% present with everything, and I find great joy and satisfaction in everything we do in that way. It's turned me on to a lot of pop music that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise gotten to know. So it's really great. And it does get me thinking about, wow, what about some other tunes that I really do enjoy? Songs that maybe express a little bit more about records that I want to listen to and would want people to know that I listen to. It might tell them a little bit about me. So I don't do a lot of cover music in my solo band. I'm going to start doing some when I get back to gigging a bit more this year, and we'll talk about that another time. But I'd like to do this series of Under the Influence, where I do cover tunes either as faithfully as I can possibly muster, or an adaptation that's, artist adjacent, that allows me to show up in my own kind of way with it. Just to connect with some things in that way, just be fun. Keep me learning music while I'm working on all of my own music. I don't want to get so far away from my passion for learning and just the joy of it. And I think that would be a lot of fun, doing that kind of stuff. And I imagine I'll surprise a lot of people if I do that kind of thing. So look out for that. I also have some ideas for some, not necessarily guitar lesson stuff. There are plenty of people who do great guitar lessons online. But it does come to my attention that another project I neglected to mention, I have a band called the Tragedy Strategy that I have been in with Dixie Duncan. And a year ago, right about a year ago, we needed me to record my guitar parts for a record. It was not a great time for me to do it, but with great coaxing and a lot of coffee and just, bare knuckle flay myself open and do it. I'm really proud of the work that I was able to do on it. It's a whole record that I showed up on the whole thing, and I'm really pleased with the parts that I played, the parts that I wrote. So if you haven't heard that record, it's the Tragedy Strategy. You can find us online. Some of the parts that I wrote on there, like I was thinking about one earlier today, is like really one of my favorite little parts that I've written, and it's fun to play. So I may start doing some lessons like that, where I just go through some records that I've played on, whether they're my records or bands that I've played for, to shine a light on the work that they do and the work that I did when I was with them, to just show a little bit of my guitar contributions in that kind of way. And in some stuff, if I have some insight to some guitar stuff, I'll try to show a little bit of that too, because I do understand that if I'm using this stuff for promotion, it would probably help if I talked a little bit less and played a little bit more. So maybe these live chats won't be so much playing. I'll try to play more in some future ones. I thought I might play when I first sat down, and then I just didn't. So I had everything on ready to play. I just decided not to do it. Yeah, so the Under the Influence thing, maybe some lesson stuff where I just go through some album parts that I've played on some records, so that you can check those out, and hopefully it, get you to go listen to those records too. I have some learning to do. I've owned an 8-string for a long time, but I need to spend a lot more time playing it properly. I need to spend a lot more time talking about this, my signature 7-string Archangel Delaney guitar. I've been playing the prototype for years, and I need to spend some time talking about it. We're talking about the next iteration of it, now that some models have actually sold and are out in the world, and you can go look at these. You can buy one for yourself at DelaneyGuitars.com. Just search my name and it will come up, and there are tons of wonderful, beautiful instruments that Delaney is making over there, and I'm humbled that he's honored me in this way to make this guitar to meet my artistic, psycho-emotional needs. But whatever you do, go over, check it out, look at this pretty guitars, and if anything encourages you, like, would love for you to own an Archangel, but any guitar over there, just let the Delaneys know that I sent you, and they'll appreciate knowing that. Artists, encouraging and supporting artists is what we're trying to do here, and the whole Delaney family has been so kind and supportive of me in every way, musically, spiritually, personally, that I owe them a debt of gratitude that I will endeavor to repay to the best of my ability for the rest of my days. So yeah, there's that, DelaneyGuitars.com. I should put that in the chat before I hang up, so it's on the thread. I have some other things that I'm learning as well. It may be fun to go through some of the Black Sabbath stuff, though I don't know how interested people would be in my going through all those old Sabbath charts. Just come to a Slack Sabbath gig, and I'll show you how to play them. I think that'll be more fun doing it that way. Also, I am rehabilitating my hands for some classical guitar playing. I've started teaching classical guitar lessons again, which has caused me to have to practice so that I could actually demonstrate things properly for students, and that has been humbling because that's definitely something that I have not been maintaining. So maybe that'll be a little bit more as I'll as I'm working up pieces and I get them to a reasonable performance. Maybe I'll do short videos on those where I do a playthrough, and if anybody's interested, maybe I'll do a short lesson on some of that stuff too, though I don't necessarily think I'm too qualified on the instruction side of the classical guitar thing. At a certain point, getting started, yeah, but getting deep into pieces, technically my hands just aren't really there at the moment. Certainly not what I was in college. So that is a thing. And I am having a custom 7-string classical guitar built for me in Portugal right now. And the reason I bring that up is I'm excited to get that at some point when that instrument is finished. But that same builder, Hugo Raposo, has built for me a Portuguese guitar and a viola de terra, which are stringed, fretted instruments of the Portuguese tradition. They are two of the most beautiful instruments I've ever seen and ever played. And while I am familiar with stringed, fretted instruments and can make musical sounds on them, I don't know how to play them properly. And I've owned these instruments for about a year now. And one of my goals is to do a pretty good study on these things and learn some traditional Portuguese music, and the traditional techniques are different from some of the right hand stuff in particular is different from classical guitar certainly, or from playing with a plectrum. So what I may do with that is I may do a series where maybe that's another live stream that I do that's separate from this, where it's not really a live chat, it's just me live on camera, showing you live what it's like to struggle when you're trying to learn a new thing. That may be interesting. I don't see a lot of people doing that kind of learning on YouTube. I see a lot of people teaching stuff that they already practiced real well and they know it real well. But I think for a lot of students, the longer form lesson of actually watching somebody that you may feel is accomplished. I've certainly accomplished some stuff, but I'm always learning. I'm always the student. There's always bettering and betterment that I can do. And that may be a really good way to demonstrate that in a way that's fun, where I can both do a little music appreciation and ethnomusicology, and technically studying a couple of instruments. So that may be another live stream that happens from time to time. I don't know if that'll be a weekly thing or not. And then lastly, I have a podcast I'm thinking about doing. We'll talk about that another time when I get a little further down the road, where I actually invite to talk with other musicians, other artists, philosophers, writers, people of all walks of life that just I'm inspired by, not only what they do, but their resiliency as human beings in tough times. Just life philosophy stuff, not just how do you do the thing that you do, but what keeps the light on, when you feel it going down, what keeps the fire in the belly when you feel it being extinguished, what keeps you thinking, that you can make a few more steps when all you want to do is stop and just lay down. I'm really interested in that, philosophically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. I think that'll be really interesting. So I'm really thinking about that. But the other thing I'm thinking about is, like I've mentioned this before, I live streamed, I'll talk about this when I go to Premiere. I live streamed some things on Facebook about 9 years ago when I started losing my mind, and it was all improvisational, spontaneous composition. And there are about, I don't know, maybe 12 weeks of that where we did 2 sets a night, like almost no repetition. And if we did any covers or any actual tunes, they were tunes that I or we wrote. So it's fascinating. It's taken me a long time to go back and look at it. I have recently, I had downloaded all of them onto my hard drive, which is good because I think Facebook is going to be deleting all of the live stream stuff that's older than 30 days. So I have them on a hard drive. They're archived. The audio is terrible. The video is terrible. Everything was recorded with an iPhone 5. So a mono speaker with whatever quality that camera was, maybe it's 1080p, but then it's also connecting to the local Wi-Fi at that club, however good their internet signal was or wasn't that day, plus that Wi-Fi was available publicly for any of the other patrons to connect to it. So there's a lot with it that's not great, but the place in my heart that it exists is some of my fondest. So I have all of those videos. I've started looking at them to see if there's a way that I can clean them up so that I can put them up here on YouTube so that they can be watched, they can be appreciated. And the idea with it was, I've really only watched the first set of the first night, and I had to stop for reasons you'll understand when I really get into it another time. Astonishing. It's absolutely absurd that we would just get together and our drummer, John McKnight, would just ask the crowd, we need a key and a topic. And somebody would yell something out, and we would compose and perform a tune right there in front of everybody, good, bad, or indifferent. And then immediately finishing that, all right, next. And like with no time, like we just went into the next thing. And then that would finish, and then we would just go into the next thing. The first set has like, I think 8 spontaneous compositions. And I don't know what to say about them other than like to go back and watch that is astonishing, just for the audacity of being willing to sit there and be that vulnerable, which was partly what I was trying to do. I was looking for the vulnerability of that experience to just, I need to be connected and emotional right now and not have time to second guess anything that I was thinking about. And I have a feeling as I get into these, I'm going to find a lot of my own pathology put on display, my own psychopathy, for lack of a better term. All of the pathies should demonstrate themselves in probably wonderful ways that I should send to a therapist. But anyway, I would show up very emotional, like an exposed nerve, and I would do all these things. And the band was always incredible. John McKnight and John Schwenke. I think there were some gigs where Steve Mays was there. Like, they accommodated me in every possible way. We have the occasional guests come sit in with us. I think there's a night where Katie Martin sat in with us, where we wrote a song about sandwiches. So like there's plenty of silly and joy, fun that we did. I think there's another night where my good friend Sam Abernathy sat in with us. So I'm real excited to get those pulled together, see if I can clean them up enough. I won't be able to do a proper mix on any of this stuff because it's just the one mono microphone. But I'm finding some ways that I can at least get it sounding as good as I possibly can. And then from there, beside the long form stuff, I'll be able to cycle through all of those tunes by name and put them up individually to where I can have a playlist of here are the crazy songs that we came up with. Some of them may not be worthwhile doing that for. They may be just more fun to watch three silly guys sitting around trying to do this stuff. I think the exposition of that is interesting. The repeatability of it, I don't know, but I'll let you guys judge it. I just want to put it up and have it out there as a listable thing that is cataloged and indexed out in the world where people can watch it. Again, getting more actual content out into the world is the name of the game. So at a point here pretty soon, I'll make an announcement about getting the premiere of when I'll start releasing that stuff too. That's sort of an ongoing process. I've started looking at the technical aspects of what I need to do to get it ready to do that, so that the work is ready to go, and then I will release that on a schedule of some kind of way. And I may do some watch parties with that stuff too, because it'd be fascinating for like me and Schwenke to sit up and talk after the premiere of the thing with you guys and just talk about all the stuff that we either remember thinking about when we were doing that stuff or don't remember that we were thinking about while we were doing that stuff. It'll be fun. Okay, I have been very long-winded. Apparently I needed to talk today, so thank you. I appreciate every single one of you who has watched any number of minutes of this complete tangent that I have been on for the last, oh God, I can only imagine how long it's been. It's been well over an hour anyway. So anyway, if you made it this far, thank you again. Please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do like this video and any other videos you might see on my channel, please surf around. And I've tried to put some playlists together of things that maybe aren't on my channel, but that other fans of bands have put up. Some live footage of me playing with Fozzy, live footage of me with Stuck Mojo, live footage of me with Agent Cooper. I try to see this stuff when I find it. Live stuff of me with Dreaded Marco as well. I'm sure there's some stuff out there with Dixie Duncan. I know there's stuff with Katie Martin out there. I haven't found any old video of me playing with Jana. If I can find some, I'll certainly try to point it in your direction. So please take a look around my channel and consider watching some stuff and hitting the like button and maybe sharing some videos around. Help me get my views and stuff up. And if you know anybody who likes this kind of content, please ask friends to consider subscribing and helping my numbers. It does a lot to support this channel, just doing that one little thing. Even if you don't have time to watch a lot of videos, just subscribing. As I said, those numbers really help. All right, with that, we'll finish this video going through the chat, both here, and I'll see if I can find anything on my Facebook page from where I chatted with any of that stuff. So again, thank you. And here we jump into the chat if anybody is jumping off. I'm just going to be talking to the chat room right now. All right. Monkey says, bootstrap philosophy, also, in my humble opinion, self-reflection and questioning the things you are or not doing is healthy. Being able to forgive yourself is healthy too. Thanks for sharing. My arms flail too. You're certainly welcome for the sharing part. And trying to recognize that it is healthy doing all of this reflection. Like sometimes it feels like self-flagellation. Like I've been terrified of the victim mentality. I don't want to become that. I don't want to convince myself that it's okay to be that. I want to be resilient. My parents raised me to be resilient. I think I grew up that way. I think that's part of what's gotten me this far down the road. It's not that I haven't had problems, or I haven't been scared, or I haven't been nervous, or I haven't been unsure in the past. I think I just had enough courage and resilience to, no matter what happened, to just put a shoulder to it and get through it. This self-reflection thing, you know, and forgiving myself for my problems and for my failures, you know, some of the difficulty is where you need to forgive yourself for what I did to me, right? That's the thing. But coming to terms with what I also did to other people while I didn't know what was going on with me, and realizing that a lot of times I haven't been the best son to my parents. I haven't been the best brother to my siblings. I haven't been the best uncle to my nieces and nephews. I haven't been the best friend to my friends and other people that I know and I care and I love very much. Like I wonder about the state of relationships that are in my wake, that either naturally were going to fall off, or that I just played a hand in destroying them because I was a mess. You know, forgiving myself over lost relationships, friends and otherwise, is very difficult, especially if I feel like I caused it. And oftentimes I do. Not that other people can't make mistakes. I can certainly hold space for other people making mistakes and being human beings as well. But I do seem to be a lot more eager to forgive everyone else than I am to forgive myself. So it's not that that's a character flaw to forgive people. I actually think it's one of the hardest things to do, and I think it's important that we actively do that at every opportunity that we can. As soon as we're aware of the thing, like forgive. And if somebody is, you know, problematic in your life, you know, forgive them and release them. You know, they don't have to be, you know, your best friend anymore. It doesn't have to be that. You know, just forgiveness is partly for your heart, in a way. You know, to put it in a place. You know, it doesn't mean you're not going to hurt over it, or you're not going to ruminate about things, but to know that you're finding a healthy place to put that stuff. Not wanting to harbor resentment over being hurt. You know, maybe people have, you know, maybe at the time I felt like they weren't being kind to me, but maybe it was just a necessary reaction for them, considering the state that I was in. That's certainly important. Certainly important. And recognizing that is important. And forgiving them for that. And forgiving myself for possibly even creating the situation that caused all of that stuff. That's a lot. So anyway, yes, forgiving yourself is healthy to do. I agree, and I endeavor to be on that side of the healthy checklist. Thank you, Lee, for reminding me of that. Lee says, let us help you. Absolutely. If there's one thing I've been really bad at, because for my friends growing up and otherwise, like I've kind of been a counselor to so many people that I know, where I've been the listener, the counselor, to help people process their stuff. But I've been really hesitant to ask for help when I've really needed it. So I'm trying to be better about that. So yes, Lee, as I need help, whether it's help with stuff online and musical promotion stuff, or just being human beings, I will ask for help and receive the help. I know that's an important part of my being healthier, is realizing that some of that is just pride, and I need to let that go. Tracy says she's late. Hello, big hello. God for me, Mike. Yes, God is very important. I don't hesitate to talk about God's stuff. I'm trying to figure out my public voice with a lot of that. I think if people that know me know I am spiritual, and that stuff is so super important. I just know everybody's in a place with it, and I like to talk about it at a time when, and in a format that is considerable. Not meaning considerable as it's going to take up amount of time, but like I don't necessarily want to convince anybody of any platitudes or any dogma that I myself subscribe to, because I'm wrestling with all the mysteries the same as everyone else is. But if I have an idea that I believe, that the things that I believe and the evidence that compels me to believe it is something to be considered by someone else, not presented in a way where I'm trying to convince somebody to believe the same way that I do, but that it is a consideration. And in that way, I don't know where that will lead people to, but if it brings you to other discoveries and things that you're wrestling with, then I would love to be a part of that. So I don't talk a lot about the God stuff, but I'm a God guy for sure. I want to serve God and be in His service in all ways, in music, in talking to you now, in the things that I'm saying. Like I want to better represent God in my existence. If that's a short way of saying it without getting into another whole diatribe. He says, no, thank you. Tracy, I struggle daily, but persevere knowing that I'm learning, healing, growing, and evolving. Praying to God, crying, cleansing the soul, forgive with love is always best. Yes, I agree with all of that. Eve says, that shows a lot of growth, mate, and it's emotionally intelligent to be able to identify and understand those emotions. Yeah. It's a difficult thing, you know. I try to be present and aware in every moment, but sometimes, you know, things happen that are on a scale big enough that it just knocks you down for a while. And even if I can privately acknowledge that I need to forgive this so that I can heal from this and I can move past this, it has allowed me to maintain relationships in my life that could have gone otherwise if I just let anger and pride and hurt feelings, you know, take the place of all things. I don't subscribe to that. I don't. If a relationship has gone that far south, wow, I've been very fortunate that none really have. Been able to maintain the most important friendships in my life. They may not be exactly what they were when they were at their most intense, but those relationships played their part in my life at the time, and I'm grateful for them, and I honor them, and I'm glad that we can still share current and future life experiences together in the way that we can. That's super important to me, because at the end of it, I love people, and the people who have been my dearest of friends, I sincerely, deeply love them. And if I'm upset over things that have happened or have been upset over a thing that has happened, like, that's something I can deal with, but I'm not willing to let go of genuine affection and love that I have for real people in my life in the ways that they've shown up in my life. I'm not willing to be so angry with myself and people to do that. I don't feel good about that at all. I would think if something were to be that level of transgression, I would never seek retribution in any way, shape, or form. I would just probably never speak of them again, you know, because I still have to acknowledge that I'm that hurt because I love them, and I'm disappointed that the relationship is not going to continue in a positive way. But loving people, like I'm not here to hurt anybody. I don't need to prove a point. I've never felt like I need to prove a point over something. If it was a misunderstanding, that will show itself in time. If it's egos and attitudes getting in the way, clouding a judgment, like it may make for some hasty decisions, that change the trajectory of a path that you're on. But that's not forever too. It's just a time. Like, I'm very fortunate that all the people that have come into my life that I have this kind of love and affection for are wonderful people. They're trustworthy people. They're honorable people. So I don't have to necessarily worry about I can never talk to them again, or I would never bring them up in mixed company. I'm fortunate in that way that the people that have come into my life have genuinely been a blessing. Things change, and that's a part of life and growing up. We just deal with that. Tracy says, I was late because I was meditating, forgiving myself for some things I've been going through. I do the same thing, Mike. I hesitate to ask for help. I'm learning too. Yes. Then that's important. Like, because we go through a lot of stuff, and like, most of the stuff that really bothers me is the stuff that I've created in my own psyche, in my own mind, in setting up expectations for what I'm supposed to be able to do versus what I actually can do, and just not being reasonable with myself. And being reasonable, that'll be a topic of discussion for another day. I had a revelation some weeks ago. But yeah, like, that's tough, especially when you recognize, or I recognize, so many of the things I have done. And the biggest thing that I'm dealing with right now, especially over the amount of time that I've sat still, trying to get myself back to some semblance of trusting myself to work and believing in myself. Like, that beating myself up, like, man, you sat down for a long time. Like, it's real easy when you're feeling better for a second to go like, well, why did I do that? That was foolish, or that was immature, or that was awfully, self-harming, or self-loathing, or some other thing that you can describe it as. Is like, all I really did was, try to tear a pound of my own flesh for sitting around. And that's not fair to do to myself. Like, I do have to reconcile that I did sit for a long time, and I'm still wrestling with all those things. But I did not allow myself to be persuaded, to be motivated. Because if somebody close to me that I loved and cared for, and still love and care for deeply, and cherish them, and will forever be grateful for them, saw me hurting and just wanted with every fiber of their being to encourage me to just get up. You can get up. If you don't believe in yourself enough, I believe in you enough to tell you that you can get up, and not being able to lift up my head and hear those words of encouragement. I wrestle with that stuff. Like, everything costs. Everything costs. Everything hurts. Everything's difficult. You have to choose what you're willing to pay. You have to choose what level of difficulty you're willing to accept. You have to be willing to accept what level of hurt you're going to take. Because sitting still hurts, and sitting still costs. Getting up hurts, and getting up costs. You sacrifice a lot of things by sitting still, but you also sacrifice things by getting up. The idea is, well, what do you gain in either perspective? And for me, the thing that I've recognized is that while I need to be kind to myself about sitting still, the only thing I really gained, it started as self-reflection, and it became adversarial. It became self-loathing. it became a deepening of a melancholy that I was already really overwhelmed by. And it became a monster that could just feed itself and grow, and allowed for ideation and rumination over things that are not healthy, and they did not serve anything. They allowed me to keep myself down in a way that I convinced myself, like, no, this is self-care. And to a certain degree, when you need to stop, stop. That is a faction of self-care. But when your pride and your ego are acclimating to the self-medication of whatever, sitting around and eating food that you shouldn't be eating, watching a bunch of television that you shouldn't be watching, not participating in relationships that you're supposed to be participating in, all of that, ignoring calls and texts from people that I love more than anything that make this life worth living, because I was just intoxicated and addicted to that thing that I did acquire in that way. And I have to be kind to myself about that, recognizing that part of my obsessive compulsive disorder does kind of want to grab onto a misery that is familiar. So as I habituated to it, I rolled myself deeper into it. And I have to be kind to myself about that. That's something that happened, and that is something that maybe it would have been easier if I had recognized it at the time and I just forced myself to get up. But I did things at the time to sort of shock my system and force myself to get up, and they did not work. And the overwhelming failure that I heaped on myself when I failed at those things and recognized that they didn't work compounded a lot of the things that happened. And then COVID. So yay, like so many things. The world keeps happening, and then other stuff like that happens. So yeah, trying to be kind of it. That's what I gained at that time. And what do I gain by putting myself out there? I gain spending more time with my family. I gain spending more time with my friends and family that I love. I gain seeing my friends playing music again. I've actually made myself go out and watch some performances here lately. And that's something that really in the last year, I've started to go to concerts again, because a friend of mine who takes lessons from me, he drags me to concerts. So Chris, thank you for that. That's been a big part of a lot of this stuff. Just being willing to take chance on friendships again and trust them and all of that, and not be so isolated. And in some ways, it's going to come with some change. I'll probably, when I get to the end of this chat, that'll probably be the thing that I close with. And I'll probably talk on tangents about it, because I've talked about it at times, again, here and here, and again, like social media addiction is a problem. It's not just a problem I see, it's a problem that I have. The OCD thing of, even if I don't and haven't posted a lot of stuff, I will scroll and look at stuff and like people's posts, and it's passive, and it wastes an inordinate amount of time in a way that maybe seems like connection, and then it's not really connection with people. In some ways, like, I feel like every day I get on Instagram or Facebook, I at least once a day send a bereavement post because somebody's lost a family member, somebody's lost a friend, a spouse, a child, a parent, or a beloved pet. And in that way, social media has been a blessing, because it allows me to stay connected to people who are living real lives, enduring real things. Not just the highlight reel that a lot of social media platforms, they want to help perpetuate. You know, I look great today. Look, I'm on the glow up. Look, I'm on this. Let me give you some bad relationship advice because I got a hot take and I'm sitting in my car, and apparently that's what you're supposed to do on TikTok. You know, I know I'll get a lot of likes if I call everybody that I dislike and everybody you dislike a narcissist. And it's all about getting likes, and that feeds a whole system of like, who's the actual narcissist? The person calling everybody a narcissist, or the people that were involved? Like, it's crazy. The whole thing is crazy. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, and social media is hurting people. I know social media has hurt me. I started out with it thinking this would be a great way to promote music and what I'm doing, and I've ended up doing none of that and really just hurting myself with it by spending time looking at things I don't need to be looking at, watching things I don't need to be watching. Something's great. I've learned some great things on YouTube, you know. You get the odd pearl of information. You see great videos of bands that, you know, when we were kids, we didn't get to see these videos. So it's really great to see a lot of that stuff. So, like, I'm not saying it's all bad. It's not all bad. It's what you do with it that's bad. And I recognize that I don't need to have it so close in my proximity. So I am finding ways to deal with it. Speaking with Tracy, yeah, we learned through those relationships and agreed on the social media thing. And back on the God thing, tomorrow, it's Mardi Gras. So this is sort of my last hurrah. I'm going to have some junk food tonight because my diet has been bad lately. And I do recognize when I eat sugar and I eat food that's bad for me, my mood is worse. Food is medicine, and medicine is food. So I'm going to take the advantage, and I know you're not supposed to talk publicly about things that you're fasting from, but it's Mardi Gras today. I'm not a practicing Catholic, but that means Ash Wednesday is tomorrow, which means we're going into the Lent season, which is an opportunity to fast from things. I am going to take this opportunity not just to fast from Reese's peanut butter cups and peanut butter M&Ms. I'm going to miss them. But anything that is not serving me and is a hindrance in my life, and social media is one of those things. I go through periods where I don't have social media platforms on my cell phone. That way, when I'm out, I can't be looking at Facebook. I can't be looking at Instagram. I can't be looking at messages and all that stuff. Like, it's amazing how little I look at my phone with no social media apps on my phone. I pretty much use it for GPS. I use the voice recorder to catch some musical ideas from time to time. I take pictures that if I want to post them, I have to transfer them from my phone to my computer and post them up that way. If I want to share memes, I have to get on my computer to do that. So that's a part of the stuff that, like, I'm not just looking for a fast from these things, which is why I'm willing to talk about it. I am actively looking. This is a time of change. I'll quote the lyric again. I'm done fighting off change. No wonder my arms are still swinging, because that's all I do is fight off change, fight, fight, I've fought against it for so long. So I'm making these changes. And it's going to come with some consequences, and some of the consequences are going to be not being so present on social media. But I've honestly considered, what's the term for it? Shutting off, not deleting my social media platforms, but disengaging it, disallowing it, disavowing it, but turning it off to where, like, it doesn't show up anymore. But I think that's a little heavy-handed. I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that. And there are enough people that I need to talk to that we do talk through Facebook Messenger, where we have some group threads with Falcon Car Wash, stuff like that, where that's important enough. But everybody who knows me and all these bands have my cell phone number. So it's not like we wouldn't be in touch. And it's a simple one message. Hey guys, group text chats from here on out. I'm getting off of Messenger for a while. So that is the thing. If you haven't heard from me, if you've reached out, that may be a thing that I've done, is that I'm ignoring all of those things. Or in a perfect world, what I would like to do is schedule a time where maybe on a Monday morning I carve out 1 hour for social media, check my messages, look around at anything that I think is funny, and then the hour's up, off. Turn it off. I have to be that disciplined about it, because social media has cost me time. It has cost me creativity. It has cost me productivity. It has cost me relationships, and I'm not okay with that. Oh, did my computer just die? Ooh, my computer may have just died. Well, that's unfortunate. So I can't read any more chats. So it's probably a good indication of I need to wrap it up. So Tracy, thank you. If I cut everything off here at the end there with your last messages about the social media thing. So I'll end with this. I will be here next Tuesday at some point. Please check in. Please subscribe. Please keep in touch. Please share this and any other videos that you like, and keep up with all the stuff that I'm doing. I'm going to need you more than ever, especially the more that I disengage with social media so that I can re-plug in with that which is my life, which is playing this stuff and getting new music out into the world with you guys. And the more time I spend with this, the less time I'm spending doing this stuff. And I know I have so many wonderful people telling me that they want to see me get back on the horse. So this is me back on the horse, and I'm going to fall off a bunch of times. So when I fall off hilariously, please laugh. When I fall off, unfortunately, please don't laugh quite so cruelly, and maybe give me a hand up. And if you can't help me, maybe give somebody else a hand up and offer some kindness to yourself and kindness to people around you. And buy art, listen to music, make music, study music, connect with all this stuff, connect with yourself, because this is who we are and what we got and what we do. So again, thank you. And now the beautiful end where I very unfortunately have to come over to the phone because I'm not really set up with a button to just turn it off. I have to end this feed, so it's going to get ugly here at the end here. So I will leave you with a close-up of my guitar as I grab the phone and let you look at that. Oops. And do that. And do that. Oh man. What is happening? What is happening? Nobody ends a stream more hilariously than me. I'm literally that old guy. So there, you can take a good look at my computer. And I'll take one last look at the chat. Since I'm looking at stuff. Okay, I think I've caught up with the chat. I am hitting the button. I'm ending the streaming.